all for joining us this evening for our first international Pages at the Prop program. I'm Liz Ellis, Executive Director here at the Indianapolis Propoleum. The Propoleum was founded in 1888 by renowned suffragist and activist Maywright Sewell as a place where women and women's groups could meet and share ideas. We carry on that tradition today through our mission as the place that connects and celebrates women. Our mission focus is women's leadership, arts and culture, and historic preservation. I'd like to thank our sponsors and community partners this evening, Rima Shahid of Women for Change Indiana, the Pakistani-American Friendship Association, the International Women of Indiana, as well as multiple individual donors. As a nonprofit, we count on your support to provide engaging programs like tonight. Please take a look at our website, www.thepropoleum.org, for all of our upcoming virtual events and to support the Propoleum. We hope that you'll join us at the Propoleum now that we're starting to be able to get back together. I'd like to talk a little bit about our speaker this evening. Maliha Abidi is a Pakistani-American artist, author, and activist. She was born and raised in Karachi, Pakistan, and migrated with her family to California at the age of 14. As an immigrant, her experiences play a huge role in her work, which mainly focuses on women's rights, girls' education, banning child marriages, domestic violence, mental health, anti-racism, travel and culture, and shining a light on societal issues. Maliha's work has been featured on the BBC, in Glamour magazine, with the Malala Fund, TRT World, and 20 Muslim Women to Watch in 2020, to name just a few. In 2018, she was the Adobe Project 1324 Women's March Global, #WhyIMarch art competition winner, and Tomorrow's Women art competition winner as well. Abidi is the founder of the Story of Mental Health, an organization dedicated to providing resources on intersectional mental health awareness and creating a safe space for women to not only seek help, but also to work on their mental health creatively in countries like Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and Nepal, where stigma surrounds even the slight discussion of mental health. At the Story of Mental Health, she combines her knowledge of neuroscience and her passion for art to start a mental health revolution with intersectionality, creativity, and empathy at the heart of it. Her upcoming books are Rise, Extraordinary Women of Color Who Changed the World, and Journey to America, 25 Immigrants Who Transformed a Nation. You can follow Maliha's art on her website, malihaabidi.com, or at storyofmentalhealth.com. And you can follow her on adventures across the globe on her travel blog, Her Adventures with Him, and the him, I believe, is her husband. You can also follow her on all social media platforms, including TikTok, which is Lorianne's favorite. I believe that Lorianne will be posting links to all of these sites in the chat feature to the right. Ms. Abidi joins our program this evening from London, England, where she's currently a neuroscience student. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so proud and so honored to introduce Ms. Maliha Abidi.
Hello, everyone. Firstly, thank you so much, Liz, for the introduction. I'm so excited to be here. I want to thank the Propoleum for arranging this and for Lorianne for coordinating with me. And yeah, I'm so excited. We have been in touch about this for a while. And finally, the day is here. I'm so excited to be talking with all of you amazing ladies here. So I want to start with a quote very close to my heart by one of my favorite feminists out there. I'm too intelligent, too demanding, too resourceful for anyone to be able to take charge of me entirely. No one knows me or loves me completely. I have only myself. When I read about this quote, or when I look at this quote, I look at it, at least for me, I look at it as that you will come across people who will support you in, whatever you want to achieve, and you will come across many, many, many people who will not support you at all, and will be naysayers in disguise, or they may try to patronize you by pretending to help you, and yeah, they don't really care about what you want to achieve in life. At the end of the day, it's you who needs to be thinking about, everything that you want to achieve, and it's only yourself that you can count on. And this quote is, something that's very close, a quote that's very close to my heart. Um, and whenever I come across a naysayer, I just keep this in my mind. And of course, like sometimes it's very difficult to, stay positive for multiple reasons. As I'm sure all of us have experienced that one time or another. Women in general just kind of struggle with that sometimes. And I think that's mainly because like there's so many people trying, they're actually not even trying, profiting of us doubting ourselves. So yeah, I think that's one of the most important things I've learned as a feminist, as a writer, as, just a human being, that you need to remember that, and you need to believe in yourself. I know this sentence is like, I feel like it's overstated, but if you think about it, in terms of feminism especially, it is like we do only have ourselves. And yeah. So I want to talk about a project that I did and why I did it. I did this project about two and a half years ago, but it has been in works for over 4 years now, and how it led to my understanding of intersectional feminism, the power of representation, just using whatever tools we have or skills we have, and how we can use not to only share our story, but empower other stories as well. And the project is Pakistan for Women, the book that, my debut book that I wrote. And funnily enough, it wasn't even supposed to be a book. It was supposed to be an online series of illustrations. I was just sitting in a cafe one day, cafe slash bookstore. And I was thinking that, okay, I should do a project that's related to Pakistani women. And I did projects before as well that were highlighting Pakistani women. But this time I wanted to do like an extensive series. And so I picked up my notebook, I started writing the names of all the inspirational Pakistani women that I knew of. And the list quickly went to like 80 names without me even properly researching on this idea, And when I saw that how many amazing stories are out there, I decided on not doing only the series, but doing something bigger with it. And that's where the idea of Pakistan movement came in. Now, a lot of people ask me why I decided to write this book in general. And a simple answer I actually don't have a simple answer for that. I have a multi-part answer for that. One reason was that just using my art and using my writing, I wanted to highlight women from the country where I come from. And I think moving to the United States, I was able to connect with so many other communities, so many other people. But I always had this feeling that they didn't truly know what Pakistan is, or the stories that come out of Pakistan, except for maybe Malala, and she's amazing, she's amazing. But and of course she's a part of Pakistan for Women as well. But other than Malala, there's so many other stories in Pakistan. But other than this as well, and vice versa, like I felt like that I didn't know about so many stories out there, and that's where that building that connection through art and writing became even deeper for me. So that was one reason. Another reason was in Pakistan. So it wasn't just to share stories of Pakistani women with people who are not aware of these stories, but it was also to create a collection that I can present to Pakistani people as well, that we need to, we need to support our girls and our women in doing whatever they want. And here are the reasons why. Here are 50 reasons why we should. Going more into detail about this, in Pakistan, mainly people want their children. This is not only limited to girls, even boys, they want them to either become a doctor, engineer, or a lawyer, mainly doctor or engineer. And this is actually quite common in South Asia or even the Asian community. But the reason why, and it sounds great, it's like, oh, it's a great field. What's the problem with that? Like, parents want to push their children to follow this path. What's wrong with that? In Pakistan, there's a phenomenon called the doctor bride. And what happens with these doctor brides is that women and girls are going into the field of medicine and they're studying for 5 years. And when they're graduating and they're getting married, right? And their parents or their families, or in some cultures within Pakistan, people want them to pursue this degree so that they can get good marriage proposals. Once they get married, there are many cases where they're not allowed to practice medicine. They never set foot in a hospital to work. They never set foot in a clinic to work. They studied for 5 years and they're not able to continue. And as sad as that is, there are many women who don't even get to that point and their parents push them to get married. And so keeping all of these different things, not just these 2 points, but many other points, I wanted to make sure that I am creating a book that is including doctors, engineers, but also teachers, activists, sportswomen, women in sports, women in science, women in every single field out there, and creating a collection that's not only showing the diversity of Pakistan, but also showing how brilliant these women are. And so next time, if somebody is saying, okay, you should only be a doctor so that you can, get a good marriage proposal, or you shouldn't follow any other field because you won't be as successful, so that these girls and these women can show these examples of incredible women from Pakistan, and say that I want to be just like her. I want to be just like this footballer, this engineer, this astrophysicist, this activist, this educator. And I honestly, when I wrote this book, I didn't know if anybody's even going to read it. And after a few weeks of the book getting launched, I received a message from a 13-year-old from Australia, and she wrote to me saying that I was born and raised here, but ethnically I'm Pakistani. My family is from Pakistan, but I never felt a connection with my heritage. And even my friends who are from Pakistan, they don't like associating themselves with the country because of what they see in the media or what the impression of the country in general is. And I also, and she's 13, she's obviously like already in such a young age where she's still discovering the world. But the message was just so profound. And she wrote to me saying that after reading your book, I had 50 reasons to feel proud as a Pakistani. And I shared that with my friends, and for the first time, I felt connected to a country that my parents call home, and where I come from as well. So that was something that I was just so excited to read. And yeah, in that moment, I felt like that, this project that I thought about several years ago, it's a total success. And since then, this book has been shipped to over 70 countries, and not just people from the United States or Pakistan, but people from all around the world have been able to read stories about inspirational Pakistani women. And now I have moved on to other projects. But if I did any other project like this, but it wasn't focused on Pakistani women first, I wouldn't feel satisfied as a writer, as an author. I would feel like the start wasn't, quite there. So the fact that I was able to first tell stories from my own country, and then, connect with other stories of, other inspirational women, is just, yeah, that seems right to me. I just want to say that there were times where I didn't think this project would become a reality. And of course, there were people who doubted me in terms of, you know, just in general as in this project, or like even other things. I didn't pay attention to them, but obviously it's not very easy sometimes. Like, you may have heard people say that, oh, just ignore them, but it's not that easy sometimes. Don't listen to them, don't care about what people are saying. But it does play with your mind sometimes. I just want to say that if there's a project that you want to do, please remember that you're not the first woman who will come across discouragement, regardless of who is that person that's discouraging you. They may have their own reasons. They may not even care about your project like that. They may not even care about, stopping you, but maybe it's because they were unable to do something similar to that. They're stopping you from, they're trying to discourage you because maybe they weren't successful at it. Or maybe they didn't see maybe they didn't see their project or their dream becoming a reality. So there are people who will just, try to stop you or discourage you from following something, and they wouldn't even have any contribution towards your life or anything. Literally, like a passerby would just, if you tell them what you're trying to do, maybe a passerby would be like, oh, but why do you want to do this? So just please remember, these things don't really matter. They are very, I have learned that they're very, that it's just noise, basically. So yeah, that's what I want to say. And also wanted to talk about intersectional feminism a bit, but I think I have spoken for a while, so I'm thinking that maybe I want to like open the floor for a bit of discussion or questions, and then I think we can, move forward with our conversation like that.
The women in your book are amazing. Were you able to meet many of them? Do you have a personal relationship with any of them? And what are they doing now?
So I was able to meet some of them, and I was able to write to some of them and actually interview them as well for the book. Some women have passed away, so they're historic figures. So of course but I was able to like get in touch with some of their family members, and just so that I can gift them a copy. Then there were people like I never, ever, 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 ever thought I would ever come across, that they would ever come across my book, or they would ever see that, somebody as insignificant as me wrote about them and, they care about my project. And that includes Malala, that includes the Sufi singer Abda Parveen, and so many other women from my book. And but they found my project somehow. That was amazing. And actually, Malala's family, they support me in other projects as well, which is amazing. Like recently, I did a series of 100 iconic women. It was a poster. It wasn't a book, and I was packing some orders, and I saw that her father had ordered 2 posters, and they live in England. And I was like, they did not just go to my website and order my artwork. So yeah, they're amazing. And yeah, I was fortunate. Like I visited Pakistan, and I was able to meet with some of the women, and they're all so amazing. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for ever even having this idea of writing this book, because it just completely changed my life. And I'm so happy that I yeah, I was the one who was able to, share these stories. So I'm a very small bridge between these amazing stories and between all the people who have supported the project. So yeah.
Maliha, you touched on this a bit, but I've read that there were no other books like this in Pakistan. Can you talk just a little bit about really how unique that it was?
Yeah, so there wasn't a project like this um, in Pakistan. There wasn't a book, um, there that was focusing on these inspirational women. Firstly, we in general in our society have a problem with celebrating women. We don't give enough time to women. A recent example of that is, and I'm not talking about Pakistan, but generally, like a recent example of this is how amazing Simone Biles is and her recent competition, but recent championship, and how that didn't get enough coverage versus something that was happening over on TikTok got a lot of coverage. And she's a superstar, but we as a society just generally have a problem with celebrating women. So that was part of the reason why this was like the first ever book published in Pakistan of its kind. And of course, like had some questions and some concerns from people who had a problem with like some of the women that I included in it. And again, that also contributes to the reason why there wasn't such a project. Um, I think also just I wanted to present it in a way that it's not just words, because I like to sometimes see my art as a sneaky way of inviting people, into getting them interested in stories that they wouldn't otherwise give a chance to, just because of their bias or just because of the lack of awareness, or maybe they just don't have time, or maybe it's just not for them. But maybe the bright colors will attract them, and they'll stop for a second and they'll read the story, and they'll come for the colors and stay for the story and leave with some inspiration from these stories. So yeah.
Which writers or books have inspired you?
Oh, this is my favorite question. One of my favorite all-time favorite writers is Angela Davis. Like, just the way, I mean, she's so much more than an author and a writer. She's just incredible. But yeah, I feel really inspired by her, and how incredible she is. And in the recent years, my new favorite author is Min Jin Lee, and if you haven't come across her book, Pachinko, please read it. She's a Korean American writer, and I just absolutely love her writing. Like, I follow her on social media, and even if she's just like tweeting something, I just read it like 10 times, just because I'm just in love with every single word that she types.
I saw people writing this down as you were talking. So Sherry Watkins said, I loved the last 4 pages of your book. my first thought was I should write about my mother and my two grandmothers. Then I thought of all the other women who've been role models and mentors for me. Thank you for reminding me that I stand on the shoulders of so many strong women, those I've known personally and those who've inspired me just how they live their lives. So I thought that was really nice.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I have a question here, and I'm getting a little choked up. What do you consider yourself first? Are you an artist? Are you an author? Are you an activist, a student, a traveler? What are you?
Oh, traveling is, yeah, it's more like a hobby rather than, it's like my excuse to connecting with more stories and learning about more cultures. But first and foremost, I do consider myself as an artist. And that's because like art has been a part of my life for such a long time. You know, like how like all of us when we were children, we just used to play around with colors and draw and paint, and at some point just some of us stopped. I just continued, and actually art became very important to me when I moved to United States, and I just didn't like, you know, moving to a new country and just the isolation of it, being away from Pakistan. I was just not happy in that time. And art became my way of just processing those emotions. Um, and yeah, so first and foremost, I do consider myself as an artist.
Can you talk about your 100 Iconic Women poster project? I'll say that that's where Lorianne found you and came screaming into my office to show me. So we were amazed from the very beginning, but I know that there might be people here that aren't familiar with it. So if you could talk about that.
Yeah, so 100 Iconic Women poster, I would actually love to share the illustration as well on the screen. If you give me 1 second, I'll just pull it out. But yeah, that project was something I started for fun online on TikTok actually, and I just wanted, like, it was just another excuse to, you know, talk about how amazing women are. And so I just wanted to, you know, create videos and create a poster that, you know, sometimes we don't have time to read articles, we don't have time to read books, but that doesn't mean that, you know, we can stop celebrating these stories because we have to. So this is the poster. And so I just wanted to, you know, have women from all around the world celebrate diversity, again, celebrate how many different professions are, you know, here. And there are women in science, women, you know, women in sports, again, women in politics, women writers, women filmmakers, women from every field I wanted to celebrate. And also TikTok was a new platform that I was just trying out. So I wanted to do this project there. And the best thing about this project was that there is an entire demographic on TikTok that wasn't aware of some of these stories. And when they commented down below saying, oh, I had no idea about this woman, I had no idea about this story, I wish this was taught in school, that was just, that made me so happy. And so yeah, that's basically the 100 Iconic Women series. Yeah.
And Lorianne did post where you can get that. Is there a key to all the women included with the poster? I think we recognize a lot of them, but not all of them.
Oh yeah. I created a page, a card, a name card, and it's in the order of how the portraits are on the poster. And if anybody wants to watch the videos as well, they're all on TikTok.
So you're a student and a traveler and an artist and an author. So how long did it take you to put the book together? with the portraits? And then how long did it take you to do the portrait project? And where do you have the time?
It took me a long time. So I actually used to work as a sales associate on the weekends at an art store. And that's how I was actually able to afford the art supplies when I was doing this project like 2, 3 years ago. No, actually, it came out 2 years ago. So I started that project like, yeah, 3, 4 years ago, actually. Um, and I used to sleep very little, like no sleep at all, almost. And because I used to have, of course, classes, and then that was the time when we didn't have like online classes like nowadays. So there was no pandemic, so you had to walk to class and you had to be there. And yeah, so I was working during the nighttime, and I became addicted to coffee in those months as well. And that's how I was able to complete this project. And I went through this weird thing where I was sometimes used to get really stressed by like if I'm not getting like a portrait right or something. And I just used to get really stressed, and I used to start cleaning my house for some reason instead of like completing that work because my stress level was like it was just weird. But yeah, I was finding time during the night when I didn't have classes or any weekend work. And yeah, I'm actually going through something similar right now, trying to complete my second book because that has 100 portraits and I'm losing my mind.
Oh my God. Can you talk a little bit about that book?
It's a book about 100 women of color. And that project is just so close to my heart because one thing is when we talk about women of color, I think we tend to talk about women in the United States or women in UK from the BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, people of color community. And we miss stories of women from the African continent, the Middle East, the Asian countries, Latin America. And that was my goal with creating this book. It's almost done, so I'm super excited for it to be published. I'll actually show you one portrait from it because I'm working on it right now. This is one portrait that I'm currently completing. And so that's the most exciting part about it is that I'm able to talk about women of color from all around the world, like literally from all around the world. And this way we're not recycling stories as well. So we're not telling stories that people already know or that many other writers have already told as well. And there's nothing wrong with it as long as we're keeping a balance of stories that are, they haven't been told yet. So yeah.
Yeah. I think in general, I think for women in general and for women of color, yeah, there are three that, you talk about and everybody writes about. So it's so interesting to, see how big the world really is. So we appreciate that. Who is there one of these women or a couple of these women that you are the most inspired by? Who do you?
Yeah. There's so many because I'm inspired by so many women for so many different reasons. The first woman that's coming to my mind is AOC. Absolutely love her. Just the way she, not just because of like what she's doing for the people, but also just the way she carries herself. Like even if she wasn't, so influential, I think if I met her somewhere, I'd be like, okay, that girl is so cool, Yeah. So AOC is coming to my mind. And again, Minjin Lee is coming to my mind as well. Because her book is being turned into a series. I'm so looking forward to it. I actually stayed up for 3 days straight. I think the book has like 450 pages or 500 pages. And I just stayed up reading like 150 pages per day or something like that. Just because how amazing her writing is. And yeah, there's some women like in my personal life, like my aunt, or some of my professors, or yeah, so they're incredible women that inspire me. Liz is one of them, Lorianne is another
Yeah.
one, and all these amazing ladies over here.
Um, can you talk a little bit about so you are this amazing artist, this amazing author. Can you talk about your training? Like where did you study? Where did you learn to be an artist?
Oh, I didn't.
Just, oh. Okay, that's a short answer to a question.
Yeah, art is so funny. Okay, so art to me is like something, like I said, I became very okay, so I used to create art like we all do when we were little, but it became like it almost became like a necessity for me when I was going through a tough time in my life as a teenager, when I moved to United States. And that really shaped my art a lot, because it started from processing my isolation, or my not feeling that great about the move, or dealing with the culture shock and everything. First my art was about that, and then slowly it became about different different things in our society that I was observing, or because I basically felt very helpless, when I read a story and I was like, how can I contribute to this? I felt like nobody's talking about this, or not enough people are talking about this, and I'm one of them because I'm not doing anything about it. I'm not posting about it. I'm not. So that's where like I started to combine art and social media. And I think with art, I I never wanted to study it, if that makes sense. Like study it in a sense of traditional studying, like go to college for it. Um, because my father is actually like who taught me a lot about art, and not just like the skill part of it, not just like how to draw or something, but also like the philosophical part of it, and like the like different, like what art can actually mean, that part of it. And one of the best things that my father did was that whenever I showed him a drawing or a painting as a kid, he never pretended that my work was the best just because I'm his daughter. So basically, he critiqued my work. And like how many parents would be like, oh, yeah, this is the best painting I've ever seen because you're my kid and you're 6 years old and I don't want to crush your spirit. But I was like, I just know you can do better. So can you like try to do better? And I absolutely love him for that, because that actually made me more serious about my work, or what I'm showing to people out there, or just like how I need to you know uh, practice as an artist. So that really helped me. Tough love.
So I want to switch gears just a bit here, and I want to talk about social media. So you're on all of these platforms. You have huge followings on all of them. I guess you're an influencer, in the best possible sense of the word. But we all know how harsh social media can be for women, and especially for women of color. Can you talk about how you navigate social media, and what that has meant to your career?
Yeah. Social media is amazing and it's horrible. um so I have days when I don't even want to pick up my phone just because of how mentally exhausting social media can be. And not just because if somebody is like saying something to me, but just because what other people are going through. If other people are, let's say, we see a lot of cyberbullying, we see a lot of people just tearing other people apart on the internet. So that's something that obviously impacts me as well, even if it's not directed at me. Um, but at the same time, it has helped me so much in cultivating great relationships around the world with people, with artists, with other writers, with art lovers, with people who are feeling a bit lost, and I'm able to build this community of people where we're just supporting each other, even though we've never met in real life. But it's the bond is there, and the support is there, and that sense of community is there, and I absolutely love that. Um, and it's so funny because every platform is different. Like Instagram is different, TikTok is different, YouTube and Twitter is different. Um, and yeah, you don't have the same community on all of the platforms. But yeah, it's an amazing thing. And what I absolutely love about social media is how 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 it can impact people, or how it can impact positively and negatively as well. But for example, like in terms of activism, right? Like if something goes viral on internet, um people can keep on pushing that, people can keep on contributing to that, and that can result in some positive change, and we have seen that. Um, and I think that's amazing. um, I think that also creates some transparency on where the public stands on certain issues. That's great.
Okay. We don't have a whole bunch of time left, but we would like you to talk a little bit about the intersectionality of feminism.
Right. So intersectional feminism is, like, absolutely love this term. I try to learn about this more and more. A term that's coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, and I would highly recommend you guys look her up, watch her videos. She's amazing. Watch her TED Talk. Absolutely love her. So intersectional feminism, I feel like it's very important to firstly understand it. And intersectionality in general, like it's not just talking about one thing, but it's talking about, like, an impact of multiple things, or finding a solution using multiple ways, or understanding that one solution that's solving your problem doesn't solve my problem, just because of, you know, all of these different things that make up who I am. That can mean intersectional feminism, and what contributes to it is race, education, class, language, culture, ethnicity. And that's where I try to actually talk more about stories of women of color, because the experiences women of color have is so unique, and it's so different, than and again, within the women of color community as well, like, there are race plays a huge part in that. Like, just because I'm a woman of color doesn't mean that I'm a brown woman of color. That doesn't mean that I would have the same experiences as a black woman. And so understanding that's why it's important. So for example, the example of that is, um, last year when we were talking about, um, Black Lives Matter, and firstly we should be talking about that constantly. But there were some women from my own community, South Asian community, who were talking about racism, but they were actually talking about colorism. And I thought that colorism and racism are not the same thing. And because they're not, racism is much worse. Um, and of course, colorism is like a branch of racism, but I just felt like that right now we need to focus on what the Black community is trying to tell us. We need to listen to what they're saying, and not bring in things that are not. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just felt like in that moment that we're talking about something that definitely impacts the South Asian community, and people of color community. But I think that is going to take attention away from what the Black women are trying to tell us. And so that's where understanding intersectionality is, especially intersectional feminism, understanding that is very, very important. It's not an easy, it's a complex thing to understand. Of course, there are layers to it. We need to, I think the best way, or how I try to tell I try to like educate myself on this, is reading stories and reading articles and watching interviews of women of color, and also just women in general as well, not just women of color, but women in general. Because like I said, intersectional feminism, there are different things that contribute to it: race, class, language, culture, ethnicity, gender, age, sexuality, education. So there's so many layers and there's so many levels to it that it's not an easy concept, but something that has the power to, change the world, or create change in our community isn't going to be easy. So yeah, but where to start learning about it? Look up Kimberly Crenshaw, and also just reading articles from women from around the world, not just United States. I think that also teaches a lot. Just generally understanding different point of views.
Yeah, thank you. One final question. Besides your book, your art project, what's next? What are you going to do next? Your nonprofit, you're doing everything now. What are you going to do next? And what is success to you? How many things you do? So many things. What does success look like?
Yeah.
It looks like exhaustion from here, I will say. If you Google you, it looks very difficult, but.
Oh, no. I think success is very subjective. I feel like success to me is just good mental health, honestly. The things that I do, I think from like a world's point of view, if they see it as success, I think it's because my heart is in it. Like, I'm doing all of, like, I don't feel exhausted when it comes to, creating art, or exhausted emotionally per se. Of course, I get tired just because, I have a deadline, but tired is different than, feeling emotionally drained, or, yeah. So I feel like that everything that I do, I absolutely love. In terms of my nonprofit, that's a long, long journey, that because of what it's dealing with, mental health, I feel like there's a long way to go. Because first part of that is education itself, just not even the conversation, but education itself, just sharing with people why we need to stop, having stigma around talking about mental health, and then moving to, like, I have a few steps program related to it, for it. On a personal level, my next goal is I'm taking a chemistry class this summer, and and I don't like it. And I need to finish that so that I can enroll in the next chemistry class, because I'm going to be applying to med school in a bit. So I'm just, on a personal level, that's what I'm worried about. And that's just, and actually that is also, I think for everything that I do is quite connected. So even with like my organization, it has to do with mental health. And I'm actually going to, or thinking about going to med school. It's not like I'm going to get in just by thinking about it. I need to work really hard. But if I do get in, I do want to, come back to mental health and art. And so it's all connected for me. Nothing is like, people sometimes they think, oh, neuroscience and art, they don't really go together. Or now that I'm talking about med school or art, like they're not going together, so why are how are they connected? But for me, they are, because art helped my mental health, and I know, and I have experienced that. with my organization as well, art is a huge part of it, on how, you know, we're going to be telling the stories, or how we're going to be, um, you know, how people are going to connect to it. So, so yeah, it's all connected for me.
Okay. Um, well, you're amazing. We appreciate your taking the time to be with us this evening, and really late at night for you. Thank you. We're going to get a couple of your books. We appreciate that. We'll be sharing your video on our website. And we know we had a lot of people that had registered. I'm not quite sure everybody got to attend, but we really appreciate everything that you're doing. And good luck in your chemistry class. And good luck applying to med school. It sounds like you know exactly what you're doing and exactly where you're going. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so
I have a
I really appreciate it. And I'm so grateful to be here with everyone. And yeah, just sharing about my work, and just, you know, if I'm able to like help anybody with their projects, you guys can even write to me. And like, if you have any questions related to any kind of project that you're working on. And yeah, I'm so grateful to Liz and Lorianne for bringing us all together here.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Maliha.